And get started. So welcome everyone to an Elevate Lane County Working Wednesday. My name is Lizzie Gray and I'm a project coordinator for Connected Lane County. And if you can believe it, this is our second to last webinar of the fall. For anyone who is new to these webinars, each Wednesday we take a deep dive into one of the New World of Work's top 10 professional employability skills. The state of Oregon is going to adopt these skills and they're recognized by industry, K-12 education, post-secondary education as some of the most important skills that we need to strengthen in order to enter the workforce and be successful. So today we are going to explore the skill of having an entrepreneurial mindset. So joining me are two lovely ladies who both, I think, embody entrepreneurs and having an entrepreneurial mindset. And I would love you two to introduce yourselves. Amy, would you like to start?
Sure. Thanks for having me, Lizzie. My name is Amy Baker and I own a t-shirt printing shop. It's called Threadbare Screen Printing and it's here in Eugene, Oregon. And I started this business in my garage about 10 years ago. And now I have a shop with 5 employees.
Awesome, thank you. Aloma?
Hi, yes, and thank you for having me. I'm super excited, pretty passionate about the entrepreneurial mindset and getting to be an entrepreneur. And so my name's Aloma and I'm co-founder and director of Eugene Mindworks co-working space. And if you're not familiar with co-working, we are a shared office space. And so we have kind of a community of other business owners and entrepreneurs that work out of our space.
That's awesome. Thank you both for being here. So students who are joining us and educators who are joining us, we cannot see or hear you. However, we do invite you to type in any questions that you have at any point during the next hour into the chat box. I will be monitoring the chat box and I'll make sure that any question that's submitted is asked to both of our presenters. Yeah, Amy.
Question, Lizzie, I forgot to ask beforehand. Are the students in high school?
Yes.
Okay.
They are from all across Lane County. Okay. And I will get us started with some questions. And I do, I'd like to introduce Joe, even though he's not here, but Joe will hopefully be joining us very soon. He is from Archimoto, which is a local electric car manufacturer. And he has an incredible mind and he's definitely an entrepreneur through and through. So I'm hopeful he joins us. Okay, I'm gonna start on the first question. And Amy, could you describe what makes you an entrepreneur?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I think of an entrepreneur as someone who owns a business and takes the steps needed to invent their own path to do so. That's kind of vague. I feel like Aloma might have a better answer.
No, that's fine. We'll ask her too. Aloma, what makes you an entrepreneur?
Well, I think owning a business, I mean, the definition of an entrepreneur is that you own a business and kind of, like Amy said, create your own path. I love being an entrepreneur because I love to create. And I think that is definitely a key trait of an entrepreneur is you're creating your own path, you're creating a service or product. And I don't know, I mean, I love the entrepreneur lifestyle. There's a lot of freedom to direct your time, to kind of design your life in a way that aligns with your values and what's important to you. And so for me, it's family time and having the freedom to kind of create my own schedule and stuff. So I love being an entrepreneur for all of those reasons.
Absolutely. I think that creating your own schedule is becoming more and more appealing to folks. So we've established that you are both entrepreneurs. And so I guess I'm curious what having an entrepreneurial mindset looks like in your current roles. And I'll invite whoever's ready to go first. Go ahead, Amy.
I was looking over the New World of Work things that you guys have, and I think there's a lot of really good answers to your question in there, including being able to be really flexible being able to be, able to deal with a different amount of stress, because when you own a business, you don't just clock out at 5 and go home. You really think about it all the time. You live and breathe with your job. And so you have to, first of all, you just have to really love your job and be passionate about what you do, but you also have to, be able to take some risks and be up for some challenges.
Absolutely. Aloma?
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I kind of wrote out my answers because I do better that way. So I'm just going to kind of read you what I wrote for this one. So lots of problem solving, always looking for creative ways to serve your customers. And for me, those are our members. And then also staying aware of changes that need to happen in how we do things. Asking good questions to find out what the needs are. And I think, well, I don't know if that was in that one. I read the whole packet, so I know good listening was important on one of those, but it's definitely important as an entrepreneur, listening, and that might not just be like hearing someone talk to you, but like paying attention and being aware and watching, what might be helpful. And then also, let's see, in my current role, also staying connected with the broader business community and being able to advocate for our members who are also business owners and entrepreneurs, and be able to connect them with resources. So that's a big part of my role as owner of a co-working space. So yeah. And then also, like this year especially, but I mean, all the time, is just kind of looking for ways, like I was saying, to adapt or make changes to better serve. And so a lot of business owners this year especially have had to like really, that piece has definitely been put to the test,
Absolutely.
like, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great point. We had a webinar on adaptability, and I think it was our first of the series, and it could not have been more appropriate for the year we've all had.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So according to the New World of Work or Oregon Employability Skills Standards, having an entrepreneurial mindset means that you seek new learning opportunities. Do you do this in both your professional and personal life? And I love this question, but what was the last thing you learned?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I feel like I'm constantly trying to learn new things, and I feel like the entrepreneurial mindset requires just about an amount of curiosity about just humans and business and life in general. And I feel like I've always had that. The constantly learning thing, and I think, at least for me, that involves a lot of leadership in my role. So there was a point when I was just my own boss and didn't have any employees. And over time that's grown, and learning to be a good leader is something I think I'll always be working on. Being a boss and, having and doing a good job at it can be challenging. And I've had jobs before where I didn't like my boss, and I want to be a fair and kind boss. And so, I mean, things that I've been learning lately is putting together an HR manual to be really thorough. I mean, that kind of kicked off with COVID as well, like realizing there's a public health emergency, this could affect my employees. And so getting standards and procedures in place is something I've been working on a lot. And then along with that, just making sure that I'm treating my employees well. This is a stressful year for everyone. And so we've been taking mental health days, we've been making sure to take care of each other. And I want to make sure I'm taking care of the people that work here, because I depend on this business for my livelihood, but so do 5 other people. And I want to make sure that they're taken care of.
That's great. Thank you. Aloma?
Okay. Yeah, I think a love of learning and just constantly being able to like push yourself out of your comfort zone, doing things that you've never done before. I know that in my role, and my husband and I actually own several different businesses, so you know, there's a lot of times where I've just you know, my position might not be user interface for the website, but recently I was like going through and like, you know, figuring out the usability of it, or you know, social media and marketing, and like you have to play all the roles, especially in the beginning. And so of course nobody has all of those skills, so you just kind of figure it out as you go. And so that's definitely an important piece, and I love learning, so you know, it works for me, but it's definitely something to be aware of, and you know, be able to push yourself to do those new things. Being on a Facebook live show, not my thing, but you know, it's like one of those things where it's like, well, yeah, but it's important to me to like talk about this thing, or you know, kind of figuring out ways to like push past your fears, and do those things that you might not have a clue how to do. And sometimes, you know, you just kind of fake it until you figure it out, or you figure it out while you're going along. I feel like I'm learning new things all the time, so it's hard to like think of one thing I learned recently, but I have been reading. I love personal development. I think that's one of my favorite things to learn about, and it can have benefits in your business and as an entrepreneur, but all aspects of your life. And so I'm a strong believer in a lifelong learner of personal development, and so I'm usually reading something along those lines. And so being mindful and remembering some of those tools for dealing with stress is something that I've been diving deep into lately.
I bet. Also very appropriate for the absolutely. So I've heard you both, actually, that was a really nice segue into the next question. And I've heard you both mention having to take risks and the fear that comes along with that. And so I ask you, as an entrepreneur, can you be risk averse? And how do you know when a risk is too big to take?
I think that you cannot be risk averse. I think you have to be willing to take risks as a business owner and as an entrepreneur. You know, that's part of the thrill of it. So it's good and bad. You know, on the good side of owning your own business is that you have control and no one's your boss and you make the decisions. But then the downside is that you have to take some risks, and it can be really scary. There was a point when I had my business in my garage, and I knew that my goals for my business was to get out of my house and into a shop, just to take it to the next level. That's what I wanted for my business. And so that was a really huge leap. And to be honest, you know, even a lot of people in my close circle couldn't see it. And, you know, they had my best interest in heart. And people can be skeptical of what you're trying to do because they don't see the same vision that you see. But I saw something and believed in it and took some risks, and I'm still taking risks to this day.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that makes me nervous thinking about it. And I guess it makes sense too that the people in your closest circle want to protect you, and and want you to be careful. And so that's who did you consult when, or anybody?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's checks and balances. You should always be checking with the people you trust, you know, your loved ones, your family, your friends. You should be checking in with people. You should also be checking in with professionals in the industry. So I've talked to other business owners about how lucky I felt in the beginning when I didn't know how much that I didn't know, because there was a point years ago when I was trying to learn how to screen print t-shirts, and if I had realized just how little I knew and how vast it was, like I would have given up a long time ago. But I had more a passion and a dream, and I just kept trying and learning and getting over the obstacles, and couldn't have done it in a vacuum. You definitely have to reach out to your resources, and then you have to trust yourself.
Yeah, yep, big time. And it definitely paid off. So good for you. Aloma.
Okay, sorry. I was like, what is the question? I know it's about risk. Oh, can you be risk adverse? Yeah, I think, I think taking risks makes anyone nervous, but like I was saying, addressing the other question is like, you have to be able to push past that. And, I think considering the opportunities, like weighing the consequences of if things don't go the way you want them to go, but also looking, maybe even more so at the opportunities that might come from it. Asking yourself questions of like, well, what if I don't do this? What, in 5 years and I look back, what, how am I going to feel about not having taken that risk? Kind of, I don't know. I like to kind of weigh all the options and it's kind of like knowing the rules. I like to know the rules, even if I'm going to still break them, kind of thing. Or the consequences of the risk, I guess I should say, is like, because it can still totally be worth it. And like Amy was saying, I think one of the biggest, that's the next question. Sorry, the biggest risk. But how do you know when a risk is too big to take? I don't know. I think it's, like Amy was saying, is like being in communication with your loved ones. Hopefully you have people that are around you that support you, want to see the best for you. And sometimes they may be trying to protect you, but I think it's important to really like check in with yourself first of all and say, well, because it's your decision ultimately if you're going to take that risk. But having a community or people that you can talk to, there's a lot of good resources, especially as far as going into business. There's a lot of good free resources where you can go and talk to an advisor or a mentor and get some feedback on your idea and like the route that you're thinking to go and all of that. So
would you like to plug any of those free resources?
Oh, well, the SBDC is amazing. SCORE is also amazing. I'm blanking out on others, but also just business owners. If you can connect with other business owners who have done, maybe not exactly what you're trying to do, but just being able to talk to other entrepreneurs is really helpful, actually.
What does SPDC stand for?
Small Business Development Center.
Got it.
Wait.
I'm going to throw that one into the chat so folks can Google it. And you said SCORE?
Yeah, SCORE Mentors is another one. And they offer free advising and mentoring. Both of those do. And not just for adults, actually. I run a children's entrepreneur program, and they let me know, yeah, we'll talk to kids if they want to start a business or they want to learn more about it. That's a resource that's available to kids as well.
That's great. And another that you didn't mention that I immediately thought of was RAIN.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I'll put that one in there as well. Very cool. Thank you. So we have a question in the Q&A box from Mary Beth. Mary Beth would like to know, what do you do to stay creative to get yourself out of a rut? Great question, Mary Beth. Anything come to mind?
I have one. I have always been a really creative person, and that's how I first got interested in screen printing. Taught myself how to screen print, worked up over the years, built my business up, and a couple years ago realized that I had worked myself into a desk job. I no longer screen printed. I hired people, and actually I'm not a very good screen printer. The people I hired do it much better than me. So smart business move and everything, it's the right way to go. But at one point I realized, oh, I sit at a desk and email people all day. That's not really why I started this business. So to kind of bounce out of that and get creative again, I started a couple different things. One was just reading books about business. So instead of screen printing and the art of it being my passion, I became passionate about how to build a business and be a better business owner. And then the second thing was just by trying things. So owning a business can be so all consuming that you don't make time for hobbies. And so I made a real point of trying to do other things, like just having hobbies again. I had to make an effort to go hiking or take up knitting or just something completely different than my business, because there was a point when all my spare time was spent working on my business.
Yep.
That could be a recipe for burnout.
Thank you.
Yeah, for me, I try to like remember all the tools that I've read about in all these personal development books, and sometimes it takes me a minute. I've actually like made myself a list that I can refer to when I get in a slump. And sometimes I'm in such a slump that I forget to look at my list, but getting outside, I mean, you know, it's going to be different for everybody a little bit, but there are some known activities and things that you can do. But one thing, actually talking about being creative, because that for me is really important too, and helps keep my energy up. I was like getting down on myself for not doing as much art and stuff and creating that way a couple years ago. And then I realized that I have a lot of freedom to be really creative in my business. And, you know, I'm doing like these events and all these things. And so I was like, you know, I'm really getting to use my creativity in these other ways. And that gives me a lot of energy and kind of, you know, keeps me going. But I would say, you know, definitely when you're in the headspace to remember the things that help you, write them down somewhere, you know, or have notes around your house, you know, like reminders are good. And my book collection is a good reminder. You know, sometimes I'll just I'm like, oh, this is really good. You know, this will help me get out of this slump. A favorite book, maybe listening to podcasts. I mean, sometimes I've just been in this mode where I'm like, oh, I just need to like immerse myself in positive, motivational speakers, you know, like have it in the car when I'm driving, read it when I get home, like just, you know, there's a lot of great resources out there for that. YouTube videos. I'm affected by negative music, or like, you know, it's like being aware of what things might be contributing to your negative mindset, and you know, putting on more positive music, or, you know, a positive uplifting podcast, or even the TV show that you're watching, you know, sometimes can contribute to your mindset. So
that's a great point. I started watching Handmaid's Tale at the beginning of the pandemic, and that was a really bad decision. So I'm like, it affects everything. It can. Yeah. So we have a question here from a student. How can I start building on the skills used in the entrepreneurial mindset now? So if a student wants to start forming that mindset, what could they be doing now?
I mean, when I first started my business, somebody told me, sorry about the printer, I hope it's not too loud.
Nope.
Somebody gave me the advice to just do one thing every single day. And that stuck with me for a long time, because when you're first starting out, you might not have any customers, you might not have you might not have an email that day, but, and you also might have a full-time job doing something else, and this is your side gig. So doing one thing every day was something I did for years, even if it just meant like looking up a similar business that I wanted to know more about to be inspired by them, or, you know, really trying to focus on a new skill by using YouTube. And I think that, yeah, Does that answer the question?
Yeah, it does. And that's a really actionable piece of advice. So thank you. Aloma, do you have anything to add to that?
I would just say start looking for mentors, and they don't have to be local. They could be an author of a book, but start looking for the people that are that you admire, their entrepreneur path or whatever, and just start learning and looking for those people. They can provide you a lot of inspiration and tools and stuff to help you build that mindset.
This feels like a very appropriate time to plug our Elevate mentorship program. So anybody on the call, any students out there who have a project idea or don't have a project idea but would like to participate in something like that, we have an application on our website, elevatelanecounty.org. And you apply, you pitch us your project idea, or you tell us you don't have one, but this is kind of what you like to do. We fund your project. We pay you $15 an hour like an intern. And then we go out into the community and help you find, identify a mentor who will work with you during the whole 6-week process. So if what Aloma said resonates with you and you would like to find a mentor, we are here to help you. So I encourage you to go apply, and all applications are accepted. So it's not a real application.
That's an amazing resource.
I'm gonna have to tell my own kids about that. That's a really great opportunity. And just to emphasize what Aloma was saying, I've used all those resources, SBDC, those are RAIN, all of those we're so lucky to live in this community that has all those different things. But I've also taken the time to take out to lunch a business owner who seems ahead of me in the game, has done it longer or owns a bigger company, or, somebody that I feel like I could learn from, just in a really casual setting, and I've had the opportunity to do that for other people too, where I've returned the favor to people that are just starting out. And so I think those kind of even just really casual interactions you keep doing that forever, as you grow your business, you can always be learning from someone else, and you can always be helping somebody else.
Yeah. And if buying someone else lunch isn't in your budget right now, you could always take them to coffee, go for a walk by the river, all kinds of things.
Totally.
So there is a question in the chat that asks, for young entrepreneurs, do you think in-person or online networking is more important in this day and age, or are they both important in different ways?
They're definitely both important, just like what we were just saying. There's so many resources online. When I started this business in 2010, I'm sure YouTube was around, but I didn't even know about it back then. So when I finally stumbled on that resource, it's just there. We still use it in my shop all the time. We come across a print problem that we can't figure out. And so we can constantly go on YouTube or other online resources to learn new things. But having been in this industry for a little while now, I've also had an opportunity to meet other screen print shop owners across the country by going to conferences and trade shows and things. So those kinds of personal connections, like I have a couple people I can call on the phone and ask questions to, and that is invaluable.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say definitely both. I mean, the whole pandemic thing is a little tricky for in person, but aside, definitely I think I love in person. I mean, I feel like the connections that I've made in person are stronger than the ones I've just made online. But I think you can definitely network in Facebook groups, on Instagram. I mean, there's a lot of ways to connect with people, and it's really amazing opportunity to be able to connect with people outside your local area using those tools. So I definitely agree that both are really important. And it really, like for me, it makes my job more exciting to be able to learn and connect with people all over and see what they're doing, and yeah, so.
Great. So our next question that I think actually I'll direct to Aloma because part of me thinks that Amy has answered this by going from your garage to a shop. But Aloma, what's the biggest risk you've ever taken and what did you learn from that experience?
Yeah, so the one that came to mind is definitely opening Eugene Mindworks, in that signing a giant lease commitment for a bunch of commercial space that we're personally financially liable for. Huge risk, very scary. Not knowing, we signed the lease before the build out was done. We were giving tours with a pile of rubble in the middle of the space. It was really exciting, but a little nerve-wracking times for sure. And then what did I learn from that experience? Well, it was really motivating. I was super motivated to like make it work. There's a lot on the line, it felt like. So I went from not really knowing anyone in the business community when we first were talking about this idea to just really like putting myself out there. Like Amy was saying, taking people to coffee, taking people to lunch, trying to just meet other business owners in the community because, well, as a co-working space, those are our potential customers too. It's not just, we're trying to, maybe pick their brain about their journey, but also like, hey, we're doing this thing. If you know any other business owners, that was way out of my comfort zone in the beginning. And, but, I was motivated because we had signed a huge lease and we had a commitment to make it work. So.
Yeah, that will motivate you for sure. Yeah. So my next question is about brainstorming. And how do you both hold effective brainstorming sessions? And do you prefer to brainstorm solo or with your team?
That depends on what it is about. I own this business by myself, and I've learned that I think that's for the best. I mean, I'm a person who likes to make decisions quickly. I don't really, to my detriment, or, not that this is the best thing ever, but I often don't take the time to just research everything and come to like a very spreadsheet worthy conclusion. Like my style is sometimes to be a little bit more intuitive, and that has worked out. And then sometimes it hasn't, but for that reason, when it comes to big business decisions, I actually, I think I solo brainstorm a lot. But we do a lot of team brainstorming here as a group too, because like I mentioned before, I don't do the screen printing anymore. I don't print the t-shirts. So when I have a question about, why is this taking so long, or why did this come out in this color when I thought it'd be a different color? Well, then that's where I'm not a dictator. We usually gather up as a group and walk through the steps, because it's so much about process. It's not somebody making a mistake. It's not, if we have all the right processes in place, then we should be pretty smooth sailing. And so when we're not, I feel like that's when I need everybody's input to talk about like at what step along the way should we make an adjustment so this doesn't happen again.
That's great. So benefits to both for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Aloma, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, it really depends on the issue, but I like to do brainstorming on my own to get my head clear. Sometimes even if I plan to like go talk, I guess I'd say the two people that I usually brainstorm with is either my husband, who's also my business partner, or my office manager, because she is kind of, she's having the majority of the interactions with our members at this point, because, she's taken on most of those roles of the day-to-day management side of things. And so she has a really good pulse on, what members are saying and things. And so just depends on the issue. I tend to be kind of a solo, like I need quiet and, write things out. But depending on the issue, I might, brainstorm with her or my husband, if it's like a business decision, more than like an operating decision.
Got it. Great. So you've both mentioned, I wouldn't call it a skill, but the need to trust yourself. And I think that self-doubt is pretty common. And so my question is, how do you learn to trust yourself enough to take those leaps of faith that are required as an entrepreneur and that you've both taken?
I guess I would say just by starting small, right? The risks are smaller in the beginning, and they should be. It wouldn't be smart for me to have gone out and got a loan for $100,000 when I just had this idea of a t-shirt printing shop. So
Right.
Instead, I took small risks that became bigger and learned more. And a big, really important part of that is failing. Also, I mean, the way you build confidence is to kind of know your limits and to know that you can handle it when things don't work out. We still fail around here. Recently, we got asked to do a huge print job for a big video game company in California. And we were so excited because we've heard of this company, and this is like, this is going to put us on the map, and the teenagers are going to be so impressed. We're going to print for this company. Well, it was too big of a job for us. And once we got into it and I realized it, I had to pass it off to another print shop, and then I had to deal with the customer and explain that we got in over our head. And so things like that, I maybe couldn't have known until I actually tried and got to that point. But now I know that boundary. I know what we can handle and what we can't handle. And I also have to just be okay with making mistakes sometimes, because it's always going to happen.
Yeah. Oof. It hurts my heart, but I mean, you just called out the lessons that you learned from it. So it sounds like it was.
And I tell myself maybe a year or two from now, I could go back to that company and be like, we're ready now.
Yeah, right.
But we're just not there yet.
Yeah, absolutely. Aloma, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, I would say definitely you have to be okay and be prepared to make mistakes and look for the lessons in those mistakes, not beat yourself up about it, because they're going to happen. A lot of the entrepreneurs that I follow, that's their message, and I just love it. And it's great to be able to tune into a podcast or something and be reminded of that, because nobody gets it all perfect. Especially being an entrepreneur, you're probably trying to create something from scratch. And so there's not really a handbook for that. And that's okay. And you learn a lot as you go. And I think the more you can, the more times you fail and you're able to, not beat yourself up and look for the lessons and keep going, the more you do that, the stronger I think you get, and the more able you are to like handle it and trust yourself that you can handle. I mean, I've heard some people say, well, think of like the worst thing that's going to happen, right? And then you can be prepared. You can say, well, oh, that's not worth it. Or, well, it's actually wouldn't be that bad if the worst thing happened. And so I'm going to keep going and keep trying. And so, I think it just comes with the experience and just also knowing that even maybe the entrepreneurs that you see as most successful, a lot of people still struggle with that. And it's like, it's a practice, I think, that you have to just, maybe like a muscle, you got to keep working it out, and making it stronger. So.
Yeah, absolutely. I have learned in these webinars, dissecting some of these skills, that failure feels like such a big word. And when you talk about failure, I think we all, or at least my mind goes to an epic failure. So like you lose all your money or you invest all your money into something that doesn't pan out. However, if we're making educated decisions and you're putting some research and some time and energy and thought behind these decisions, a failure doesn't have to be epic. It could just be a small misstep, and then you can, correct course. Yeah, I hate the word failure.
And to add to that too, the way you handle failure with customers is huge. So, we make mistakes, and when we own it and we try to make it better, those customers come back again. It's not the end of the world, even though sometimes I think it's going to be the last time we ever see that customer. Well, because we did the right thing and we were honest about it and we refunded their money or whatever we had to do to make it right. That goes a long way, because
Absolutely.
customers want honesty.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially as a local business. Well, there's a question in the chat that says, I love this question. How do you stay productive as an entrepreneur? I always worry that if I am my own boss, I will not be as productive.
I guess for me, it's that I just picked something I'm passionate about. So it's what I want to do, even in my spare time. So, I mean, you have to strike that balance. I've gone through times where, I'm just really scrappy, really hustling, really want to make it work. So I'm up till midnight, answering emails and screen printing and doing all the things. And then I learned to back off and say, well, actually, I don't have to answer emails all weekend, or I need to carve out space to not just do this all the time. So, I mean, you do have to keep yourself motivated by it, but then you also have to remember that you have to have downtime too and step away. So it's a balance that, if you're passionate about something, you'll keep working on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I love what I do. And so, I stay motivated because I love what I do, and I don't dread it. And I think there have been times where I've kind of got burnout or felt burnout, or maybe like the stress of things was more overwhelming than, the feeling of stress of things was more overwhelming than maybe my passion and love for what I was doing in the moment. And so allowing yourself to have that downtime, or reflect on why you're doing what you're doing, and ask yourself some of those questions of well, what happens if I throw in the towel, or what happens if I don't stay productive and keep this thing going. That's always an option, right? But I think checking in with yourself on a regular basis about is this what I want? Am I happy? Is this, it's not easy all the time. Nothing is going to be easy all the time, but are the benefits that I was seeking in creating this business, this lifestyle, are they still what I want? And if yes, that will help you stay motivated, I think, to keep going.
Yeah, absolutely. So I am going to do a last call for questions. I have one more prepared for our speakers. However, I want to give everyone the opportunity to ask any questions that they have. So this is your final warning, not warning, but it's your last encouragement. Okay, so the last question I have for you guys is very interesting. I had no idea that this existed, but did you know that there is such a thing as an intrapreneur? It is someone who works within their established organization, but continues to think, act, and be entrepreneurial. Would either of you say that word embodies who you are, or that you identify with that word?
I read that, and I had not heard of it before, and I didn't think of it as applying to myself. It did bring to mind a couple of people that work for me.
Interesting.
Not everyone that works for me has the same, everyone that works for me is amazing. Let me say that first. So happy with everyone in our team here, but of course there's different levels. We have people who this is their job and they show up and they do a great job. Mm-hmm. And we have a couple who just really seem to go above and beyond and be willing to look at this company as something that they can help further and push it down the road a little bit more. And And so I've, when I saw that question, that kind of came to mind, and I could see how there's those mindsets. Maybe I've just been in business for myself so long that when I think of working for other people, I don't think I was an entrepreneur. Jobs I had, I didn't. One thing that keeps me motivated to keep my business going and to be an entrepreneur is that I didn't like working for other people. And I remember some days of dreading going to my coffee shop job, and I never do that with my current owning a business, and I never dread coming here. So that motivates me to keep on making it work.
I like it.
Yeah, I hadn't heard of that term either. But and I don't have a team of employees. I just have an office manager. And so, but yeah, I mean, I think there's definitely people that have a lot of the characteristics of an entrepreneur, but maybe don't want, but maybe they like the security of a paycheck. And so that's great. I mean, we need all the roles, right? We need people that want the security of that 9-to-5 job. I mean, but yeah, I guess, yeah, that's a new term to me. And since I own my business, I don't know that applies to me, but.
Yeah, no, I'm trying to picture too, if I feel like in order to be an entrepreneur and to work for someone else or in an organization, you really have to be very passionate about that organization's goals and their mission. Yeah, so new term for all of us. Okay. I don't see any questions in the chat box, so I think that we are going to wrap up just a couple minutes early. Thank you to everyone who joined. Thank you both, Amy and Aloma, for joining us. I will remind everyone that next Wednesday, next Wednesday is a holiday, so we do not have a webinar next Wednesday. However, the following, which I believe is the 18th, is our last working Wednesday webinar on self-awareness. So I hope to see you all then, and thank you again, ladies.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
Thanks. Bye, everybody.